Guys, welcome everyone to Windows App Studio. When you're a developer, you get asked to do a lot of favors. Like, can you build an app for my GarageBand neighbor? Or can you come to my kid's class and teach them all how to code? Or hey, we've got a lunch meeting in a half hour with a client. Can you just whip up an app really quickly? And of course, like as a skilled developer, you can do all of these things. But wouldn't it be great if there was a tool that would cut your development time in half, or better yet, allow you just to teach that person to do this on their own? With that in mind, we launched Windows Phone App Studio 8 months ago in August. 370,000 app projects have been created within Windows Phone App Studio. 20,000 of those were published to Windows Phone Store. Here's a couple of examples. 2,700 freshmen at Arizona State University used App Studio to create apps for their information studies course. 500 of those students published them to Store. And small business owners worldwide have been using App Studio to create apps to connect more deeply with their customers. Here's a couple of examples. So Holly, who lives in Austin, Texas, used App Studio to create an app called Integrative Mom for her blog. David in Toronto used App Studio to create an app for Grainstorm, which is his bakery in downtown Toronto. And on the bottom right, this is probably our most famous developer, Tariq in Boston, an 8-year-old, used App Studio to create his first app that he published to Store called KidZone. Now today is a monumental day for us. You'll see on the program that it was pre-launch preview, and we were lucky enough to actually be able to launch this morning. So everything is public. All you need is a Microsoft ID, a live ID to get in. It's free. Everything is live. What was Windows Phone App Studio is now Windows App Studio. You can access it from either appstudio.windowsphone.com or appstudio.windows.com. Now, App Studio puts a little bit of a ring on the typical app development lifecycle. So, of course, you're going to start by planning and designing your app. But once you're building an app within App Studio, you can do one of three things that we'll demonstrate for you today. First, you can immediately test the app on your phone or tablet or PC with sideload. You can take the published package, the completed AppX or Zap package, directly to Store for publication. Or you can download the entire source code package, take it to Visual Studio, and extend it in millions of different ways. Now, before we get into, I'll take a clap. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, a little bit about the app architecture of App Studio before we get into the demo. As you can see, it's a standard panorama format, swiping from left to right, right to left, and each one of these sections that you'll see there is the content that you put into App Studio. Below that, you'll see that this is what we call a data source. So if I wanted this section, which is an About Us, just standard HTML5 text input, that's my data source behind this section. The next, let's say I want to list all the team members on my team and their email address. I'd put that in a collection. Then if I want to surface news about my company, I just put a Bing search data source underneath it. And then with menu actions that we'll show later, this allows you to contact, so directly launching your phone to call a phone number, launching your mail client so you can send an email, or going directly to the home page of this company. What this is behind it, this is the source code that's being produced in the background while you're building this app in App Studio. Okay, so to get into our demo, again, you can access it via appstudio.windowsphone.com or appstudio.windows.com. We're going to show you how to choose a template, add your content, configure themes and tiles, prep your app for Store publication, and we'll take an app all the way to publication today in front of you. We'll show you how to generate the app, and of course, show you how to extend it within Visual Studio. All right, let's show you the tool. Okay, so on the home page, you can go into the how-to, which is a very detailed user guide explaining how to use all of the intricacies of App Studio. You can look at a few sample apps. You can start a new project or look at the projects you've already created. Okay, so for this, I'm just going to show you if we start a new project. Here's a few things. So if you want to do an empty shell, that's with no content, and you create all of your own content, look and feel, you start with an empty app. Otherwise, you can use any of these templates here at the top. These are our most common templates, or any of the templates at the bottom. And we'll continue to release new templates as we move forward. These on the right are examples of what we think are great user-created apps in App Studio that have been published to Store. This is one piece. We're not going to spend too much time on it today. But also this morning, we released the ability to create a web app template. But right now, that's only supported for Windows Phone, not for Windows. But you can go in there, put in any mobile optimized website, and there you have native controls on top of a web app. All right, so we're going to go to my projects and take a look at one that we've created. Rito, why don't you want to show me how you created this app?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so let me explain how you can use App Studio to create an app like this one. So the first thing that we added today is not only this simulator, with web simulator for the phone, but also for Windows. So you can have a sneak preview of what will be your app looks like. So you can see that I customized the logo, the name, I put a nice background. You can see the news, some videos, how you grab content from your social networks, and also how to show your albums that are linked to the Nokia Mix Radio app. And I will show you how you can do this app. So here are our main sections. As Brian said, we are using the Panorama Style app. In Windows Phone 8, we are using the Panorama Control, but for Windows 8.1 and Windows Phone 1, we are using the new Hub Control. So the order that those sections will appear in your app, it's very easy to configure, so you can drag and drop here, and you will have an instant feedback about how the app will look like. And now let's go section by section, explaining to you how you can create an app like this one. So the first one is the HTML section. The HTML, it's very easy. You only need to set up the content. You can copy and paste from any web page or edit as you want. So I can set some bold fonts or whatever. The next one are the RSS section. To configure this section, you only need your feed URL. And once you have the data that you want to show, that comes from this URL, the next thing that you can do is to choose how do you want to see those items. So another important thing that we have in our sections is that each section has two different kind of pages. And list page, where you can see all the items from that data source, and a detail page, where you can make more advanced things like configuring behaviors and actions. And I will show you how to do that. So for the list page is the thing that I have here. It's very easy to change the layout, so I can choose between all of these layout collections. And for the detail page, the same. You can choose the layouts. And here, you decide which field of that item want to show on that place. So you have more than one image or different text is how you choose here. Okay. The next section is the YouTube section. It's the way you can configure this is very similar to the RSS section. So you will have the list page and the detail page. We offer all of these kind of different data sources. And today we are releasing the Facebook data source. It's something new from today's release. And then we have what we call advanced sections. So the first one is the menu section. This is a special section that will allow you to enrich your app with better navigation patterns. So instead of having just a plain panorama control, you can have a menu section where you can link to another section, so you can have a hierarchy of different pages and navigation levels. So here, what I did was create a menu for social, where I will add different data sources for Flickr, for your photos, and Facebook. And then I create the Twitter data source. We don't have a Twitter data source right now, but that's what I'm going to do in the demo. So I'm going to extend this app, adding the Twitter data source. So more on this later. Then we have the albums. To create the albums, we create the kind of section that we call collection. This is a special section where we allow to define your own schema, so you can choose the fields that you want to show. It's completely customizable for you. So here, in the Data tab, you can choose which columns do you want to configure. One important thing here is that I create one special column that is of type album that will allow you to create actions for that column. So what I'm doing here is that I will add a button that will open Nokia Mixed Radio looking for that album. So your app is not only content, but also some kind of behavior.
And what type of other actions can I do besides making a song or an album play in Nokia Mixed Radio?
Okay, so we have telephone, so you can make a call. We have email, you can send an email. And integration with other apps. We have integration with Here Maps, so you can have locations and let your app open and set up the Here Maps with the direction how to go to get to that location. And for Nokia Mixed Radio, we have songs, albums, and artists. Yep. So when you edit the data, we provide a thing like this one, so you can edit the information here, add images, or what you want. One important feature about the collection data source is that you can choose if you want a static or dynamic data source. What it means. If it's static, that data will be on your app. We will generate the code with this data, so the device we don't need an internet connection to show this information. If you choose dynamic, the data is stored on the cloud, and the device will fetch this information. So it will allow you to keep your information up to date.
Think about the power of this as well, where you essentially want to choose the type that makes sense for this app type. So with this in a band fan page, the list of the albums they're releasing isn't going to change that often. So it's better for me to make that as a static resource with data in the app. And if I want to push out an update to my users, then I'm doing that via store. But think about if you're a restaurant. With this, all I have to do is just go into the App Studio tool, list it as a dynamic resource, and every day I could go in there and say, 20% off if you get here by lunch, or buy one, get one on Saturday. And then that page is going to display that content every time the user just loads that app. They don't have to update it from store. It's just being pushed out. But again, as Rito said, you have to have an internet connection to do that. So if they're offline, it won't show anything.
Yeah, so think for this, like this is a small database for free that is stored in the cloud and will help you to create better apps with more content and fresh content. Okay, so now that I finished with my content, the next thing that I can configure are the themes. So here you can choose between dark style, light style, or a custom style, where you can choose from a color palette, different colors for your background, your app bar, and also an image for the background, and that's what I did here. Then you can configure the tiles, the live tiles. You know that the live tiles are a very important piece of our platform. So what we did here with this release is that we are allowing with just one configuration to create tiles for Windows Phone 8 and the new Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows 8.1. So you only need to configure once. There's one important kind of live tile, is the cycle template, that if you choose cycle template and bind to a collection that is dynamic, we will create a background agent or a background task for you, so that tile will be updated.
And think about the power of that even for this example. So sure, the restaurant could use it to push out coupons that are shown in the live tile, or this band here can update that for their users if it's pinned to the home screen. A live tile that says, hey, check us out, we're at this venue on Saturday, come see our show next Friday, and that will continue to update if you choose that option.
Yeah. Then we also have the splash screen, lock screen. This is something new, because the splash screen is different between phone and Windows. In phone, it's like this, in Windows, it's like this. So this is one of the only things that you have to do different for Windows Phone and Windows. All the things that I mentioned before are the same for both platforms. But for the splash screen, you should choose an image and also the background color.
So if you've, of course, a splash screen is not required, but if you've created an app in App Studio any day before today, go back in today and you'll see, launch that app, edit it, you'll see it already shows on the Windows emulator. But that's the one thing that you're going to have to change with respect to look and feel is if you have a splash screen image, it's optimized for something that's this size versus a tablet size.
Yeah. So with that, your app should be almost ready. And the last thing you need to configure is what we call the publish info. This is the metadata that you need to match with the store. So one new thing that we have in the Windows Store is the capability to reserve the name of your app. So once you reserve the name of your app, the store will create some information to identify that app. It's what we call the package identity. So this information should match in your app within the store if you want to publish to the store. So let me show it's the kind of the app title, of course, the description. So if you want to associate with your app with the store, it's the same thing that Visual Studio is doing today. So Visual Studio will connect to the Dev Center and grab this information. So if you want to do without Visual Studio, just using App Studio, what you need to do is go to the Dev Center, reserve the name of an app. I did it before. Edit this app, and I'm going to show this because it's hidden how to get the package identity, but it's very easy. So you go to Services, and then go to the Live Services site. And here you will see that you have your identity. That's the information that you need to set up here and should match exactly. Then you will have your publisher ID. Sorry, here. Publisher ID, of course, the app display name and the publisher name. So with this information, we are creating a manifest that will be ready to publish to the store. So there are some scenarios where maybe you don't have Visual Studio, so you want to use the packages that we will publish. And
if you're only going to be sideloading this app and just share either for yourself or sharing it with other colleagues who are also App Studio members, which you can do, you can ignore most of the stuff on this page, but if you're going to take it to store, you need this stuff that's actually in the manifest so that it'll pass certification. And again, you've reserved that app name.
yeah. So now the app is ready. We are showing a preview in both platforms how your app looks like, and now you can click the generate. And once you generate, you can choose between Windows Phone 8 or Windows Phone 8.1. And what will happen under the covers when you click the button generate is that we are creating the source code, and that's very important because it's something that no one is doing. It's generating the source code, high quality source code that you can use to extend their app. But if you are not a coder, the other thing that we are doing is that we are building the app for you. So we are creating the Visual Studio project, building that project, and also we are offering two different kind of packages. So as you will see, we have the installable packages for side loading. So for example, if I want to install this app in my device, well, I know that you can see that, but it's very easy with the QR code.
If you already have an App Studio account and you've unlocked your device, it just takes one click, scan that QR code, and you can sideload this app on a Windows Phone 8 device.
Yeah. Well, one note about the side loading. To be able to sideload apps, you need a certificate in your device. For Windows Phone, we are creating a nice experience to install this certificate with another QR code, but you have this just once for each device. So once you have this certificate, you can deploy as many apps as you want in that device. For Windows, we create a zip file with a PowerShell script that will add that certificate for you. One note here is that for Windows RT devices, that PowerShell script is not working, and you need to follow the instructions that we have in the how-to. It's just adding a certificate to your certificate store.
Yep.
And then you are ready to use the installable packages. So now let's install this app.
So if you're already used to App Studio, you're used to the QR code scan, but for Windows 8.1 devices, we don't have that option. We use this PowerShell option, which adds 2 or 3 more steps to what you're used to with phone, but it still will work to sideload.
Okay, something. It's wrong with the network.
You're good. There you go.
Okay, so I save this file, open, extract. So the first time you run this script, it will check that you have the certificate, and also will check that you have a Dev Store account. This is a free account, and you can use your Live ID just to enable the side loading on that machine. I did all that before, but this PowerShell script will check all of their requirements. So now it's deploying, it's deployed here. Let's see. Here we go. And here we have the app that we have just created in minutes. As you see, thank you. So here we have all the things that we did before. The YouTube. We have different kind of navigations. You can scroll for all the items. And let's see what I did for the Nokia Mix. So I have here 2 albums. Let's open one. Look at this button. This button is because I configured the action for this data source. So let's see how you do that in the tool.
You'd be surprised the breadth of music that's in Nokia Mix Radio. This is a fan page for a garage band in Seattle, and they have 2 albums, both on Mix Radio. But before you put that in there, you want to go to Mix Radio and just make sure what the search is going to come up with. Particularly if you're searching for an album that many times there's multiple albums with that same name, then you're going to want to go for just the band name or an individual song.
Okay. So remember that I configured that column type album. It allows you to create some actions. So this is how you put that button on that page that will launch Nokia Music. So if I click here, open Nokia Music, and we'll search for that album for you. The same will be if you have a location with here maps, or if you have an email or a phone, it will open the app that is registered for that protocol and will launch for you. Okay, and the next thing that we are providing each time you generate the app is the publish packages. That packages are the same binaries that the installable packages, but the difference is that are not signed. So it allows you to download that packages, run the certification toolkit for your own, and upload to the store without Visual Studio. And finally, we provide the Visual Studio source code. One note here, Brian, is what's happened with the Windows Phone 8.1 store that, well, we have that text because we are providing that packages, so you can run the certification toolkit or what you want, but the store is not ready yet.
Yeah, as you know, the store is not open yet, so while you can create these packages, the store isn't ready to submit Windows Phone 8.1 apps yet. Wait just a little longer. And also note on the published packages as well. So you're getting the Zap package for 8 and then the AppX package for the Universal Windows project, right? The only thing you really need to do on top of that is have your tile and your screenshots, 1 to 8 screenshots. The screenshots pieces we find is what trips up most first-time users. So we have multiple instructions about how to create good screenshots that are in our how-to. Again, that's what we find. If you're out teaching coding and teaching app creating with this tool, be prepared. That is the thing that is going to trip everybody up, is how to create good screenshots. As today, App Studio doesn't support the ability to create a screenshot within the tool.
Okay, and finally, you will get the source code. So to open this project, you will need Visual Studio 2013, but we only require the lowest Visual Studio edition. So with the Express edition and the Update 2, it's fine. If you prefer to run in Windows Phone 8, it will be the Windows Studio 2012 and the SDK for Windows Phone 8. But it's the same story here. So you can download the code, and it will look like this. So what you see here is the new Universal Windows projects that allows you to share code between phone and Windows, right? So, well, we have the NuGet folder because we are using NuGet to some third-party libraries that will be restored the first time you build the app. And here is the Universal Windows project, where you will have 3 different projects or folders: the Windows Phone, the Windows, and the shared code. We have lib with the App Studio DLL that you should be using, and then we create another project that is the data project, where all the data source code is generated. We could use the shared project to this code. However, in the case that you want to use the background agent that I mentioned before, that background agent will call code here. So this is why we have 4 projects. If you have a live tile, a cycle live tile, you will have 5 projects. We think that this is the good enough architecture to let you extend the app as you want. So let's switch to explain which are the patterns that we are using. 1, right? Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, so I think that everyone knows about the model view model pattern. So that's something that we are using, and this is not casualty. This is because it allows us to decouple the views from the data. And that's very important because we will be adding more data sources in the future, and we don't need to change anything from the views. So if we will add, for example, an Instagram data source or other data source that will come in, all the layouts and the features that we have will work the same way. Yep. So if you are not using MVVM, what you have is something like you have in the left, where the views are using the data sources directly. They are coupled. But if you use view models, you have the chance to change the data source without affecting the views. So for the extension activity that I'm going to show you, that it's adding the Twitter data source, what I want is to use App Studio to configure the pages, the layouts, how I want to see the tweets, and then open Visual Studio and change a little bit the code. So instead of calling the collection services that we have, we will be changing that code for make Twitter search.
And a lot of the effort that we put into our February release was to make the code cleaner, lighter, and that's, so if you generated an app in App Studio before February, I would recommend going back in, generating it again, and the source code you're going to get is MVVM pattern. It's just a lot cleaner, a lot lighter.
Yeah, well, that's something that we didn't mention before, but if you have some projects in App Studio already created, just go today, generate again, and your app will be ready for Windows.
Yep.
So it's number 3, I think. Okay, so as you could guess, what we have here are all the pages of all the different sections that we have. We have a page for the list and a page for the detail for all the sections that I configure. There's one important page that it's the main page, where you can see here the hub control with the different sections that you have. Do you remember this? So this is mapped to this directly, right? So what I want is to change the Twitter data source. So everything is configured, and what I need is to add something here to this project to enable the Twitter data source. So let me explain how we architect the data project. So we have app storage, so we are providing some cache, so your app will be run with cache data. So if you open an app and then you lose your connectivity, you will have some data as well. Well, we have some utilities in common, like the RSS helper, and then we have these 3 folders, the data providers, data schemas, and data sources. So with data schemas, what we define are the columns that you will have for each data source. So for the Twitter data source, what I did was creating a default data source with the default 4 columns that we are using. So what I'm going to do is to map the title for the author of the tweets. The subtitle will be the date of the tweet. The image URL will be the the author image, the author profile image, and the description would be the tweet text.
So if you're going to extend an app in Visual Studio to create support for things like Twitter and Instagram that we don't have a direct text box input option for today, and you're going to do that in Visual Studio, we recommend creating sort of a shell within that section, titling it Twitter feed, Instagram photos, whatever you want, and then take that, open it in Visual Studio, and create the plugins that you need.
So what I did was just creating a fake tweet just to see how it will look like, and then I'm going to change in App Studio. So what I need is a data provider. Here in data provider that we have is the code for each of the data sources that we have. So if you are using, for example, 3 RSS sections, you will see here 1 RSS provider. So what I miss here is the Twitter data source. So to add the Twitter data source, I'm going to use a third-party library. We will get this from NuGet, but because this is a new platform, some packages has not been updated to those platforms on NuGet. So what I'm going to do is a little trick. So I will add the NuGet package just for the Windows. I will do something like this. Install package link to Twitter. And then I will reference the portable class library from the data project. Okay, it's done. And now I will add a new reference here. This is here, LHS, packages, link to Twitter, lib, and use the PCL version of this library. Right. And now I will add a new data provider that it's prepared here. The data provider are doing some kind of authentication with Twitter, and now I create the search method that accepts the query, and you will make that query to Twitter, and then map the ID to the ID, the name for the title, the created to the subtitle, the profile image to the image, and the description to the tweet text, right? And now the final change is to open the data source, the Twitter data source, and change this. So instead of using this provider, I'm going to use the new Twitter data provider, and then call the search method left hand smoke build, and that's it. So now we have the new Twitter data source added to this app. Let's run. Okay. Well, it was already installed on this machine. Please uninstall, install again. And here it is. And if I click Twitter, here we go. So those are the tweets with the same layout that we designed in App Studio. But not only this, because this is a universal project, I can choose to run the Windows Phone version of this one, run in the emulator, and we will see the same data source running on the phone without making any change, any additional changes. So let's see if it works. News, video, social, Twitter. Here we go. So everything works as expected. Well, I think that we are almost done. The only thing that is missing is just to publish this app to the store.
Absolutely. Let's publish it.
Yeah. So what we are going to do is that we are going to create the apps. So create app packages, ready to publish to the store. Oh, we can see the button here. Guess it will be this one. But I'm not sure. Okay, this is querying the Dev Center. So what you see here are the same apps that I reserved the name before. So I choose this one, and look that you didn't need to open the manifest to change your publisher ID because we did for you. So now, please create, will be, I don't know, version 3. Okay, so here I have the package ready to upload. So let's go to my app, go to packages, and drag and drop. And now it should finish saying that the package is ready for submission. Let's see if it's finishing. Okay, green, so the package is valid. So this is because we have here in the manifest all this information ready set up for you. Well, we will need to capture some screenshots before sending to certification, but everything is done. So, just to summarize, what are we providing? So, right now we are supporting both platforms, Windows Phone 8 and Universal Projects for Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows 8.1. So the runtime on the first one is Silverlight, the second one is SAML. The tool is Visual Studio 2012. Second is Visual Studio 2013. You can use just the Express versions. Project is the Windows Phone Project or Universal. Of course, the Windows Phone 8 version will run on the Windows Phone 8.1 devices, so you can run both apps. One thing that you should be careful about is because the identity of the app is the same, you can't have both versions of the app in one device, so one will be update the other one. Then the side loading, that for phone we are using the QR codes, for Windows we are using the PowerShell, and the packages that we are using to publish to the store.
Yep. And again, one note on the store packages that the Windows Store for 8.1 isn't open yet. You can create the packages, but can't submit that until it's open.
Yeah. So,
a couple notes on some additional resources. So we have a very active user voice community and also a support forum that we monitor. And the last thing I want to show is this curriculum. The interest among teachers, students, and in education has really been awesome. Because, as you know, these students are tough to win, right? They're looking at lots of different platforms. Those that are thinking about starting a career in computer science, they're really tough to win. So what we've done is created this nice curriculum. It's a 1-week curriculum, or it can be done in 5 1-hour sessions, and we also have teacher notes to do it in 2 2.5-hour sessions. It has, complete decks, teacher's guides, student guides, videos. It's really complete. And what we found is that a lot of people who are using this in community events are going in here just pulling the decks and modifying them as they want. We also have 3 extension activities. So things like how to add a Twitter source. So after the students have finished, basically the way the curriculum works is they're creating an app about something that they care about. Not just a standard template, but any of the things that they care about. So it's written to be compliant for AP Computer Science at the high school level and first year Information Studies or Intro to Engineering. So this would be like before you've started actually taking computer science and engineering courses. Yeah. And the first 3 days of it are building the app, improving the app, sharing the app with classmates, and then the last 2 days are extension activities with Visual Studio. And for these students that are just considering an engineering major, if the first thing we do is just throw up a whole page of code at them, you're going to scare half of them off. But if I can get them interested in building apps about something they care about, then they're invested in it, and the code we're showing is their code that they created. Again, that page is there, and we'll continue to add more items. Okay. Guys, we're going to move into Q&A, but one thing I wanted to mention.
They are not viewing the page.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Cool. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, we're already good. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention, we are at the end of this, at the end of the presentation, we're gonna have a contest, and 3 lucky winners here are gonna walk away with one of these phones. We have 3 Lumia 1520s. The one thing I wanna tell you is you have to have the app called Quiz Bowl, 2 words, Quiz Bowl, on a Windows Phone 8 device or a Windows 8 tablet or PC. Now, we'll give you the rest of the instructions when we get there. That'll be after Q&A, but again, it takes a little bit to download it, so Quiz Bowl is what you need for that. But let's get into to Q&A. Yes?
Hi. My name is Max, and I personally have experience with App Studio, and I have to admit it's very easy to develop applications. And the question is, it's very easy to develop, but applications themselves will be very, very simple. And what you personally, your team, is going to do to prevent filling the store with simple, crappy applications?
Sure. So a few notes on that, and if you couldn't hear the question, of course, the worry with something like this is when you want to make a tool simple so that you can attract all sorts of users, but the concern of that is that it's going to create apps that all look like each other, that are of low quality, etc. A few things. I mean, one is our certification requirements, and one thing that we've struggled with this tool is that some students are using it and creating content apps for content like that they don't own. So they're trying to create the official San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit app, and that will be blocked in certification because they don't have rights to that IP. What we're also doing, and I want to see the difference between why I think this is a better approach than some of the ways we've done it before. Typically, when you're teaching students, you're giving them a template, right? So the old method was give them a template to create an RSS reader, and then what do students do? What you end up having is all those students go out and create their first app. It's 100 RSS readers that all look exactly the same with a single page, And many of them, the example was CNN, and so they're all trying to publish these CNN apps. With this, the thing I like about it is that they do have the same look and feel in that panorama style, but they're about millions of topics you would have never thought about. It's a kid's t-ball team. It's a how to solve a Rubik's Cube example. The way store search is, the truth is, if these apps don't get traction in the store, and some of them have, we have some really popular traction, they're not going to come up in search, right? So we don't have to worry about the user going in and being flooded with these. But it allows that student or that first-time developer to share that with friends, say that they published the app, etc. But we're going to continue to add more advanced plugins like we did with Twitter today, so that we can continue to improve it. But you're right. I mean, that's a concern of ours, and we are working on it.
And the second question, really quick question.
Sure.
What license is used for generated source code?
Yeah.
Well, I think we don't have a very special license, so it's used as your own warranty and it's used as is. So it's like MSDN sample code or that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's in the terms of use when you accept that lawyers spend a lot of hours writing. If you don't want to fall asleep, you can start reading it. Yeah.
Hello.
We'll come back.
I've been using App Studio a lot in past months, and my question is about App Studio Common Library, and why do you distribute this library in a compiled form and not in a source code form? Is there something secret like access codes for cloud services? Or
No, there's nothing secret, and we will publish the source code for that DLL, so don't worry about it.
So it's planned to be open source?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
maybe we
and-
will distribute with the same source code package that you
Yeah,
have.
okay.
So,
Thank you.
but there's nothing secret there.
Thanks. Question?
Hi, I'm Zunke. Well done. Looks awesome, really.
Thanks.
I could imagine that we as software companies could use that to give our customers the opportunity to build software as well. Will it be extensible? Will the user interface experience that you showed be extensible from us so that our customers don't have to go to Visual Studio? For example, adding data sources to the
Well,
templates.
that's quite tricky because if we allow you to upload code there, we will sign with our certificate, and we can't or we should not sign binaries that we don't know the code. So we are only offer the side loading for the code that we are generating. But anyway, we are looking for new ways to open these capabilities to the community. Yeah. So if you think that you have a great data source, you can send it to us, and we review the code, and if everything is fine, we will add to the tool. So that's our plans.
Thanks.
Yep. We're going to create a new area for social where we can post things that you guys have created, because we're constantly being sent stuff that just it blows us away. Anything that we think is impossible, someone's able to extend it. It's been really cool. Yeah.
This question is related to what he asked actually. Once we modify the code in Visual Studio and upload it to your site, will the client or our customer go ahead and modify the application on the App Studio?
No, once it's modified in Visual Studio, it's yours. So think an App Studio like a starting point.
Do you have
so if you make any modifications, it's completely unlinked from the App Studio. But anyway, the thing that I'm doing when I'm working with this scenario is that I'm using any kind of source control. So I check out, just make changes in App Studio, download the code again, merge with my local copies, and so you can have not very good experience, but something that it's good enough to pull the changes from App Studio and merge with yours in Visual Studio.
And keep in mind that if you extend within Visual Studio, compile and take it, you're taking it out to Dev Center, not back to App Studio to publish.
Do you have any plan to do this, or it is?
Well, it's something that you can do today. But, so if you extend the application, for example, in the sample that I did with the Twitter data source, if I add another section, for example, to the app in App Studio, what I need to do is to create the app, generate the app again, the source code, download, and merge with my changes. So that's something that will work, because the code that we are generating is exactly the same. So if you are not changing anything else, for example, you can change the background or you can change whatever, merge with the changes, and that's work. It's working. So, but you will never have the side loading story for that changes that you do in Visual Studio.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Question?
That's very good, by the way.
Thanks.
You guys did a very good job. I was wondering if you'd have the source code in Java, HTML, CSS at some point.
Sorry, source code.
If you have the source code in Java. Yeah. Yeah. Node.js, yeah.
Well, it's something that we are looking if it makes sense, but we could generate in different languages, so maybe we could add in the future, but it's not decided yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Right now, the data sources are inputted. You're forcing a single data source when you're creating it. Is there any way to leave that open to the user to select it? So something like Flickr, they will pick their own Flickr feed, or their own Twitter feed.
Well, we could do is the trick that I did is just add in the collection data source and then change it. That's the question, how you can add a custom data source.
No.
At one time, the user would be able to go and select
Well, it could be a nice feature.
Yeah. Yeah, within App Studio, no. It would be something you'd have to extend. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that if we have existing apps already in App Studios, that we just go over there and kind of recompile and get that to be ready to Windows 8 updated
Yep.
Windows 8 up to 8.1, right?
Yep.
But in the beginning, you needed to choose whether you take the new kind of approach with the apps or not. So are those kind of a combined the project that you have over there?
Yeah, good question. So he's saying in the beginning when you have to choose, it's actually when you're choosing it's at the very end in the generation. So at the very end you're generating, and you can easily go back and generate twice for both.
Right.
The one thing at the very beginning, if you do choose to do the web app template and you go down that path, you'll see it's I should probably open that, but we'll show that to you. It's at that point you're making the choice to only publish for Windows Phone because we don't support web app templates for Windows.
Oh, so I think that I have a web app template here. This one.
Yeah, we'll show you what it looks like. It's very different. So when you generate it, it's going to show just for phone 8. And go back to that last page of the content page so you can see what it looks like. Yeah. So you see with this on the content page, it's for web app template, it's just a single page, right? You can add different native buttons at the bottom, but it's just a single page that's wrapping a site.
Yeah. I think that this also answers your question, because we open here another kind of apps where we are reusing the themes, the tiles, and the policy info, but the content is completely different. So in the future, we will have more templates where the content is not just data sources with lists and details pages. So maybe we will have different kind of pages or samples or behaviors or whatever.
Yeah, so that works. Okay. Any other questions? All right, let's have this contest because I really don't want to have to carry these back in my luggage. So I'm sure you guys don't want that either. All right, so how this works. This is what we call the App Studio Challenge, and it's going to test your knowledge of Windows Phone, both from development, apps, history, everything. Now, if you've got this installed, so you've installed Quizbowl, again, on Windows Phone 8 device, tablet, PC, what you're going to do is select a new game, and you're going to select the Windows Phone topic, which is in the World and Business category. Don't start yet, because only games that are played during the 5 minutes while I run the timer count. We'll have to check the timestamp to make sure it's not a saved game, but one that you played during the contest. We've been putting in new questions throughout the day. So you select Start, Play Now. You can play against anyone you want to. It doesn't matter who. Now there's only 7 questions, so you'll see that it's only going to take you 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute to finish. Here's the trick. 1, you can continue to play it, but only the last game that you played is a winner. That's it. So that's your final score. So if you think you have a good score, stick with it. If you decide to get a higher score, whatever that last score is, that's the one that is going to walk away. Walk away with the phone. The 3 top scores get the phone. If we have ties, we'll have an extra challenge question. Okay? Any questions about it before we start the timer? Quizbowl. Oh yeah, you'll go, once you're in Quizbowl, you go New Games, go down to World and Business, and you'll see Windows Phone. Yeah, just the Windows Phone counts. Okay. Any other questions before we start? Okay, we're going to walk around as a group, make sure everyone's playing a live game, and answer any questions while we go. All right, 5 minutes. Top 3 scores walk away with the phone. On your marks, get set, go. New game.